Hi everyone, Bitcoin here from the Big Chubowski, coming at you with round 3 of the first week of Season 5 Grand Arena. I'm up against this opponent called Themistocles, and we're fighting in the finale together. Now, he has one of the most interesting accounts I have ever fought. As I alluded to at the end of my previous video, we have a pretty interesting stat difference. Now, before I get into his roster, let me just show you real quick here. It's actually over here. He has won 3.2k Galactic War battles. Now if you divide this number by 12, which is how many you can do per day, you get about 270-ish days. So the estimated age of his account is 270 days old. And he has 47 G13s, which is over twice the number I have. Quite impressive. He has a General Skywalker bet at Gear 11 still and 5 stars, as he obviously just hasn't been playing long enough to even get all of the guild event tokens to get either General Skywalker or Malak up to Relic 7, or 7 stars rather, and he also doesn't have Treya unlocked yet just because he hasn't been playing long enough to get all of the shards for that. So I've got a few minor advantages like that, but for the rest is pretty crazy. He only has, I believe, about 24 Zetas or 28 versus my 72. So that's another advantage that I have, and my mods are better than his, just because, I mean, he's got to have spent a ridiculous amount to beat that too in the short amount of time he's been playing. But yeah, I have not faced an opponent like this before. I really had to think quite long about what I wanted to do for offense and defense, because I felt like he could practically brute force any defense that I would set, with the exception of my Darth Revan and my General Skywalker team. So that became the strategy. General Skywalker up top at the front, as I expected him to have to at least two-shot it. Then over here an EP team with Sith Trooper in it, because his Stark is tied in speed with my Vader, and if he does try to use his Troopers, which is actually one of the teams he kept for offense, then he would have to get through this guy. Then on the bottom side I have Darth Revan with Sith Assassin instead of Sith Trooper. I know, Sith Assassin, Gear 8, painfully low number, but even if he uses Darth Revan, which is slower, then I would be okay, as my Darth Revan would start with Insanity. Now, to make sure that he wouldn't brute force my Darth Revan really easily with his High Relic JKR team and a bunch of others, I also set my Grievous team over here to ensure that he would have to get through that as well. Now, in the back, there are pretty weak teams. In this case, I've set my Bounty Hunters and my Ewoks behind, because I expect him to perhaps get through this zone. Really depends on how he plays things. Really don't expect him to get through here, mostly because he put Padme and Jedi Knight Revan on defense, so that should be interesting. Now it's 7 hours to go until the end. I'm pretty sure he's going to wait me out and see what exactly I do, because if he cannot beat Darth Revan or General Skywalker, then he won't be able to beat a single zone. While I at least have somewhat of a chance to maybe crack one of the zones, but yeah, holy relics. Relic 7, 7, 6, 5, 5, 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. So in this wall alone, he's got more Relic 7s than I have in my roster. Pretty crazy. And then at the bottom here, he's got Padme, also a gigantic amount of relics. And then here at the bottom, he's got JKR, together with Old Ben as 5th. So it's interesting because he actually has the relics to be able to take on a General Skywalker team, but he doesn't have the Zetas and doesn't have the modding right now either, but all the building blocks are there. So I need to figure out how exactly I want to beat this guy, and I have a pretty limited window of options, of things that I could do. To give you an idea of what I have for offense, I have my Padme team, I have my Jedi Knight Revan, which honestly isn't going to beat anything here. And I've got Treya, could maybe do something with that, very big maybe. Ray Jedi Training and CLS are just too weak. Maybe CLS can clean something up nicely. I might move Watt out of here and put him somewhere to make the difference. Then I have my Night Sister team for offense, and some weak stuff. And my favorite team, my GOs. So yeah, somehow with the teams that I have here, I have to get through one of these two walls. And the tricky thing for me is to decide which of the two, because I can start trying. I can do something like Night Sisters against his Grievous team, but if I fail that, I might also need Night Sisters to beat the Jedi Revan team, because I'm pretty sure that if I tried Padme, I would time out on it. In the same way, I could use Traya here on the Padme team, but if I fail that, then that means I won't have my Traya anymore to use anywhere else. So I basically have to commit to one side, and I looked a little bit at his Grand Arena history to figure out like what kind of stuff might he have behind. And I did actually, before setting my defense, expect him to use the same approach, because he almost always won using it in the past. He's used this quite often actually. And over here in the back he should have a Geos team and a High Relic Night Sister team as well. So even if I beat Padme here with Traya, then I would have to deal with his High Relic Geos still, which my Nest probably wouldn't be able to do, considering I already timed out on a weaker version last time. So, well, it would be a last resort, but I don't expect to be able to make it. And then over here in the top zone, he had some kind of, he had 3 High Relic Bounty Hunters, and then Newt and Dooku, and then some kind of Kira team, I believe, maybe with Zalwar in there, I'm not entirely sure, some kind of mix. And that I could actually stand somewhat of a chance against with maybe my Rey Jedi training, maybe my CLS. So in general, this zone is a little more accessible to pick off than this one for me, as if I use Padme in the front here, I won't be able to beat one of the back zone teams, Night Sisters probably. So I'm pretty limited on options, and I feel kind of forced to go through the top. I don't know if that's been his intention or not, but I'll have to go figure that out. Now for my battles, I'm going to be not doing live commentary, because I would like to use airplane mode for these battles, and during some testing with turning off my Wi-Fi on my laptop a couple days ago, I had some game crashes. When putting it back on, it did also succeed the other half of the time, so I'm really not quite sure what causes it to crash half the time and what doesn't. But I really don't want to throw away my Grand Arena over that, so I'm going to be recording on my phone to be safe, and I'll just add some commentary where relevant. And I'll mostly be thinking very hard anyways, and perhaps not talking as much. So looking forward to that. Alright, so for my first battle, I decided to actually go after Jedi Knight Revan using my Night Sisters. Now, when I first relicked up my Night Sisters, I tried some of these battles in Arena. It had been a long time ago, and this time I didn't really have any chance to practice that, as there was nobody to switch with in Arena. I have some relics on Asajj, some on Daka, and some on Spirit, but that's really it, and I was up against a full Jedi Knight Revan team with relics on everyone. So this was quite a stressful fight for me, and I really had to think carefully about how I wanted to play it. Definitely wanted to burn the Savior as quickly as possible, but with Daka immediately taken down a lot, I was not feeling super comfortable at the start. I got Jolie to burn his revive, which is nice, but it's not that useful if he gets it back anyways long before you manage to get a kill. So they're already killing me off a lot here, and I haven't really managed to get directly through to anyone. So it's taken a while to get started here. Finally get a good hit in on Grandmaster Yoda. Here I'm thinking, like, should I use the AoE, because there will be a lot of counters, but zombies taunting, so it should be alright. And unfortunately, immediately afterwards, I believe all of the plague gets cleansed, and it feels like I'm pretty much back to the start of the fight without having made any progress, except for losing a lot of my characters, so it's really quite difficult to break through this team. And I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to take it on or if this was going to go well, so I threw it into airplane mode at this point. Got my Asajj taken out there, who's really important to dispel all of those buffs all the time. Do of course have a chance to bring her back because of Mother Talzin lead, and also because of old Daka just reviving. Even though she was at pretty low health at this point, and I was just expecting to get hammered at any second. Getting through Old Ben also proved to be very time consuming, and as you can see I'm already 2 minutes down in the fight here and I haven't made any progress whatsoever, other than building up some health on old Daka, I guess, from everyone dying off. So just had to stick with it here, tell myself to keep going and see how exactly it would turn out. Now those specials from Spirit are a big deal. I need to get as many of those in as possible, and this is where I first started to deal a bit of damage and finally get rid of some of the debuffs. And again, I had to burn through old Ben here. I figured I should get rid of him before I even tried to get to Jolie, because it was taking quite long. Actually went for Grandmaster Yoda here just because he deals too much damage, and finally got him out. Now here I was thinking, I've made some progress, I've managed to kill Grandmaster Yoda, now it's just Jolie. But when Jolie gets the battle meditation from Bastilla, as everyone fondly remembers from the Jedi Knight Revan mirror match days, he will counter like crazy and just constantly heal back up for more than I am actually hitting him, with the exception of Spirit and maybe Asajj. So it was pretty tricky to try to get through him here. Still 2 minutes on the clock, and Grandmaster Yoda's back. Fortunately I got a stun in on him, but I'm losing characters left and right. And once Daka's by herself, she's not going to be able to survive, as a direct focus from Jedi Knight Revan means game over at that point. So really thinking what to do here, how exactly to get through, because there's just 1.5 minutes left. I was already thinking about, okay, maybe I can just stop playing now, let the fight time out without Grandmaster Yoda, and then try to send in my own Jedi Knight Revan to clean it up. But I figured, you know, I've got time, I've got firepower. Let's see how far I can get, because if I have to resort to a cleanup this early, then perhaps it's not going to work anyway. So he brings back Grandmaster Yoda, I think the second or the third time here, but I quickly burn through old Ben now, and I've got about a minute left on the clock. So you're probably wondering at this point, did I make it? Well, you're about to find out if I made it. This is really one of the craziest stressful fights I've done in a while. So here you've even got Jedi Knight Revan with his AoE taking out multiple characters as he's fully charged up with those buffs he's got over there. Now finally I've got 2 characters out. I can start pinpointing Jolie. We've got 40 seconds left on the clock, but Jolie of course still has his battle meditation buff there. So just trying to keep going. Asajj is starting to hit pretty hard, and finally I take out Jolie. So at this point I throw it into autoplay, as it's just Bastilla and Revan left, and I have 20 seconds left on the clock. Of course at this point it feels like every animation takes half an hour. Finally get Jedi Knight Revan out of there, and then I realize that I'm still in airplane mode and I really don't want to take the risk of it timing out. So I do that, which of course costs a couple seconds too, and then in the very absolute end with 0 seconds to go, I get it done for 55 banners. Absolutely crazy. It took so long to break through them, and I was super happy about this fight, really had a lot of fun. So after Night Sisters versus Jedi Knight Revan, I wanted to proceed with the Padme team, and I was just quickly checking if C-3PO, including his plus 20 speed from his unique, was going to be faster than my Thrawn, as he would call some kind of assist in the beginning, and he was indeed. So I really had to think about how I wanted to play this and to reduce the chance that Thrawn might get shot out in the beginning. So I figured I should bring a pre-taunting tank, which I did end up picking. I thought about Zaldar for a bit, as when someone drops under max health, his taunt might take over, but ultimately ended up settling for the pre-taunting tank that I had, which was L3. Tried to think of other compositions too, but this seemed like the best choice for now. Now generally, it would be nice if I had Sith Trooper here, for example, but in this case I put Sith Trooper on defense, so that was not an option. So C-3PO started there indeed with calling the assist in the beginning. I got the opportunity to fracture Padme, which I took, and then Ahsoka right there almost one-shot Maitreya. So at this point I knew I was probably not going to make it. I isolated GK to stop the taunts. In hindsight, I could have maybe isolated Jedi Knight Anakin, so he would have only done a basic, but there's nobody taunting, so Jedi Knight Anakin would have gone for Maitreya anyways. So that's pretty unfortunate. L3 is really not adding much here. And I was already thinking, I'm going to lose this fight and I will have to figure out something else to use against this team. And it's ironic because it's actually the fight I felt most comfortable with beforehand, because I've beaten a lot of Relic 7 Padme teams in Arena before, but here I ended up completely getting my ass kicked. So this was not a successful run. As you can see there, Nihilus getting taken out. There was really no hope left at this point to potentially succeed. Not even sure why I ended up doing the AoE with Scion here, but yeah, it was game over, so I backed out. So then I pretty much had to go with my only other option, as Jedi Knight Revan was never going to burn through such a high relic Padme team, and I decided to mirror match it, which was unfortunate because if I was going to get through this zone, then I figured I would need my Padme against his Relic Night Sisters. So I did a mirror match here. I chose Shaq as my 5th, as she's quite a lot stronger, and I figured her building up more courage would give me a higher chance of killing some kind of character. And if you try to look up Padme mirror matches, there's really not a whole lot of great content on it. It doesn't get used that often, obviously, because you almost never need to resort to it. But to me, it feels like such a random battle where you have to get lucky that you don't get caught with your GK with his pants down, essentially not having any protection up, and then getting attacked by someone with a high number of stacks. And that's pretty much what happened in the fight here, where ultimately I was just checking here if he had protection up, if I could stun him, or if I should maybe go for Ahsoka. But as you can see, none of the attacks really do anything, and there Padme just randomly shot out my GK, just like that. That's how quickly it can happen. So at this point I knew I was definitely not going to win the fight, and I had to try to take something out while having practically no courage. So a pretty tricky fight, and I was really careful here not to hit people with Retribution, as I was worried that would definitely get more characters killed before I was able to pick anyone off. So I ultimately ended up deciding to try to kill Ahsoka, as I didn't think I would be able to get through Jedi Knight Anakin with my relatively low courage stacks. And even the hit from Shaq didn't get the job done there. And Ahsoka was back, healed up, and I just had 3 characters left. So gave it a lucky shot here, and Jedi Knight Anakin managed to kill their Ahsoka, which at least meant that someone was taken down. But just like the first fight, this was a major bummer. You always think that if you play manually in a mirror match, surely you're going to outsmart the AI. But here I was just not able to. I'm sure I made a bunch of mistakes, and feel free to point them out to me and teach me how to do it better. So ultimately I ended up deciding to use Kira, Nest, and Hermit Yoda to clean this up, with Hermit Yoda's Master's Training on Nest to give her more stats, which didn't end up mattering a whole lot because I was pretty much debuffed the entire fight and almost never countering. But ultimately, over the course of a few minutes, I managed to build up enough offense to be able to take these characters down, as they had already lost their actual protection beforehand. So that's what I expected, and it worked out nicely, though I got the lowest number of banners I've ever had for a fight. So to my surprise, in the back I found a Night Sister team and a Rey Jedi training team rather than a Geos team. And that was nice for me because I knew I was going to be able to take out the Rey Jedi training team, as I had the mod and Zeta advantage. So I went for that team and just immediately started picking them off. In hindsight, something I could have done better is to start recovering protection on R2-D2 a little sooner there, as I ultimately ended up losing a banner on him as I couldn't recover his protection enough. I was a little bit more focused on mitigating damage, as some of them can still hit pretty hard, especially the relic ones. But that was a 1 banner loss there that could have been avoided, I suppose. So always try to be careful to start recovering your protection at the right time, so that you don't waste any unnecessary banners. And then after this Rey Jedi training fight, I decided to proceed against Night Sisters, this time using my own Jedi. Pretty funny, I used Night Sisters to beat Jedi Knight Revan, and then used my own Jedi Knight Revan to beat Night Sisters. And I'm basically down on relics in both fights, as I only have a relic Grandmaster Yoda here. For Jedi, I really had to see like who exactly do I want to bring, because if I bring Old Ben well, then I don't have a tank for my CLS team that I might want to try something with. But I was like, whatever, the chances of succeeding against Shaq are so tiny, it's probably just better to bring Old Ben here. And his AoE ability block, his AoE turn meter removal is really amazing. And what I found from fighting Night Sisters and using Night Sisters against Jedi Knight Revan, it's really about who is in control in that fight, and as long as you're in control, then you have a good chance at beating the other team. So here I went directly for Mother Talzin, as her AoE can be quite devastating at higher relic levels. And obviously had to burn through Zombie a fair bit here. And then it's a matter of getting those 2 kills in, those kills that Zombie revives for, and after that you just have to take out Old Daka as quickly as possible, knowing that under Talzin lead she is constantly going to get called from the grave and potentially stun people. Now, despite going for Mother Talzin and for Old Daka, the biggest enemy to me is actually Asajj, because Asajj is the one who constantly ends up dispelling all of the buffs that you build up, which costs you your damage, and makes the fight take a lot longer and gives a lot of opportunities for the Night Sisters to make comebacks. So Asajj is really quite annoying. Talzin is a major threat at such high relic levels, but Old Daka really had to be taken out and kept out so that she couldn't keep stunning and reviving people. So there you see it, Asajj dispels all of my buffs again, which is quite a setback. I was actually really worried I would lose Old Ben here, and to my surprise, even though they got the kill with the Spirit Blade, it did not revive Old Daka there, just because that was the savior rather than an actual kill. So I didn't know that that's how it worked, so this is where I first learned that. Decided to spread some foresight here in the hopes of having the tenacity up as well against whatever stuns might be coming from the grave. And then finally I managed to get to Asajj here, and at this point it was too late for them to make any kind of comeback, as once Daka and Talzin are gone, you should be firmly in control. So I cleaned this up. I was still trying to recover some banners here and there. I could have stalled the fight on Zombie for a long time, but I was a bit more concerned that eventually Asajj would start hitting too hard and surprise me, and that would have been an epic fail. So I decided to just settle for this, 56 banners, and then move to the zone up top, where there was still a Shakti and a Grievous team with an absolutely crazy amount of relics that I didn't really think I was going to be able to stand a chance against, but why not just give it a shot? Don't really have anything to lose in that regard. I decided to go for Shakti, just because, I guess. I've seen some videos on it. It can work as a counter if you are matched in relics, but I'm obviously not. The nice thing about bringing Kylo Ren Unmasked would be that if I actually managed to survive until Rex's Annihilate, he would tank that. But I figured with such high relics, he's going to be dead in no time, so let's throw in Geonosian Brood and see if the Brute with the taunting tech can hang in there for a while. My Geobrood is just gear 12, so as you'll see here, this was a very brief fight with me stunning Rex, putting the taunting tech on the Brute, and then the guys over there saying, you know what, that's enough moves for you, let me just wipe out your team. So this was a very short fight and pretty much a game over for me. Alright, well, I'm back. The match is over as it's the next day. I really didn't have any time yesterday due to territory wars, the Sith raid, etc. to get back to you about how it ended, but my opponent also attacked very late. Unfortunately, today I'm not able to check the map anymore, but I can tell you what he did and what happened. He actually beat me by 7 points, as you can see here, which marks my second ever loss in Grand Arena. Pretty bummed out to see that. So what he did was he attacked my General Skywalker team at the top and somehow took it down with 3 attempts. It's got to have involved his Darth Revan team, his CLS team, but his Malak was just gear 11, so I'm not entirely sure how he managed to do it. He could have maybe burned the specials first. Perhaps he brought Han and stunned my Rex to buy him some time, and then managed to maybe kill Rex and then 5 sacrificed, but he could clean it up in a second attempt or something like that. There are some possibilities I can imagine. No idea how exactly he did it, but props to him. And then he was more efficient on the 3 remaining teams that he had to beat, which was my EP with Sith Trooper. Not quite sure what he used there, if he used up his CLS and his troopers, because he honestly didn't have a whole lot of things left. If you look at his profile, pretty much everything at the top here was on defense. Even though I could not see that one back zone, I really don't think it was super weak. He's very likely got to have had Geos there, or maybe he used Geos on EP. And in the back there were, as he called them, weaker teams, which he took out. Now, he was telling me how he was really unhappy that we got matched up because I had 300k more GP than him, and I tried to explain to him that having 300k GP in noob characters really doesn't do anything against all of these relics, but he wasn't having that, I think. But yeah, anyway, he beat me. Congratulations to him. It's a pity for me, but I'll just be moving on, doing my best, and I have no doubt that I'll have a good chance at reaching Kyber. So that's going to be quite alright. And second place or third place rewards, it's all the same in the end, are still alright. You get a little bit less, but it's okay. It's really mostly about the points, the lifetime score, etc., where it matters. I like to keep that up pretty high. Let me actually take a look here how I'm doing in the guild. Currently a bit lower on score, but in lifetime I'm the second highest together with Telser here. Alright, well, anyway, it is what it is. I lost, and I'll get over it and move on. And I'm personally, like, that Night Sister against Jedi Knight Revan fight, that was a win for me. I had so much fun doing that. It was absolutely crazy. So sometimes even if you lose, you still feel like you had a win and like you had fun, and that's ultimately what matters and what's most fun about the game. So thank you for watching, take care everyone, and I look forward to the next week and the next round.